Welcome back. You're watching Gravitas. India has spoken today in no uncertain terms that the Rohingya will have to leave. The government filed a response in the Supreme Court defending its stance on deporting all illegal immigrants, including those from Myanmar. In a 5-point reply, the central government has said that the presence of Rohingyas in India has ramifications on national security. Intelligence agencies have uncovered links between the Rohingya and Pakistan's military intelligence, the ISI, as well as terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Toiba, the Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. The Rohingya are also allegedly involved in mobilization of funds, fabrication of Indian identity documents and human trafficking. This, according to the central government, poses a threat in the northeastern corridor and could spark violence against Buddhists by radicalized Rohingya. India's decision to deport them has not been received well by the international community. New Delhi, in fact, told the world to stop preaching and look at its own record. Let's start with the US here. After it accepted a record number of undocumented immigrants under former President Barack Obama, the number of refugees entering the United States has been cut to half. The European Union fares only slightly better. The European Commission has launched legal proceedings against Poland, Hungary and the Czech Republic because they refuse to take in refugees. The feud is over a plan agreed upon by European leaders in 2015 to ease the burden of Italy and Greece. Only a little over 20,000 people have been relocated so far, with the Czech Republic only accepting 12 of them. Bangladesh, meanwhile, believes that India must do more than deliberating the deportation of Rohingya refugees who are victims of a crisis at home. Some in Bangladesh's ruling Awami League say that if security is a concern for India, it has to put pressure on Myanmar to end the violence at home. WION's Dhaka Bureau Chief Saad Hamadi sent us this report.
Bangladesh feels isolated on the issue of Rohingya crisis. The recent affidavit of the Indian government citing security concerns arising from the arrival of Rohingyas is not just India's problem, but Bangladesh's too. While India is concerned with the 40,000 Rohingyas staying illegally in India, Bangladesh has accommodated nearly 900,000 of the community. But a recent remark by former Indian Foreign Secretary Kanwal Sibal has shocked a former Bangladesh diplomat. Sibal has said that if Bangladesh expects India to criticize Myanmar on the Rohingya issue, then it is mistaken.
When their former Foreign Secretary Sibal says that 20 million Bengalis who have entered this country, we are not talking of them, we have to send them back. What is he talking about? This is lack of any sign of humanity and humility.
Bangladesh's junior foreign minister Shahriar Alam has also touched upon the security concerns arising from the Rohingya crisis in Myanmar.
For Bangladesh, it is obviously a security threat. We have had incidences in the past. So that's why we are very mindful of that, and we are registering the Rohingya population, as you know, for the first time.
Sources within the government and ruling party of Bangladesh feel that India must target the right spot instead of threatening to deport refugees who are being persecuted in their homeland. India's geostrategic interests are different, of course. Still, Bangladesh expects New Delhi to do more to address the internal violence in Myanmar that is already spilling over international boundaries and could affect India too. With Pooja Mehta in Kolkata and Saad Hamadi in Dhaka, WION.
Joining us this evening, Phil Robertson, Deputy Director of the Asia Division at Human Rights Watch from Bangkok, and Tan Nguyen Thun, Chief of the Burmese Service, Voice of America from Washington. Good evening to both of you. Tan, to you first. The government of India has made its position very clear. It sees Rohingya as a security threat and has told the court that it shouldn't intervene. Your first reaction, did you see this coming?
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
I missed your first point. What's the question again?
The question is that the government of India has made its position very clear, once again taking a firm stand and telling the world that it shouldn't be preaching because India sees security ramifications, national security concerns when it comes to the Rohingya refugees, and it has to look at its own interests first.
Yeah, I saw that report. You are mainly talking about the Rohingya population or Rohingya refugees in India. So since I haven't got a kind of a proper access to the information or kind of affidavit testimony submitted by the Indian central government, I cannot comment on that. But what we know about situation in Burma is clearly in the last month and August attack and last year October attack were staged by the terrorists. It is a terrorist act anyway. And also the leader of the group, Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army, Mr. Uta Allah, is come from actually from Pakistan, and I also have a clear link or kind of a connection with that Pakistan-based Taliban. So it was an ICG interview, and he admitted that kind of link. So we can say that the part of the elements in Rohingya populations is being kind of led by the terrorists. So this is the stance by the Burmese government that what they are doing is a kind of anti-terrorism operations or something like that. So this is a situation I can comment on.
Phil, there is no denying that there is a massive humanitarian crisis that is unfolding as we speak. But would you agree that the international reaction, the global powers are missing the whole point, that there is a security concern, there is a bunch of terrorist organizations aiding and abetting these, and as unfortunate as it is, the refugees are collateral damage?
Well, I think that the links to some of these terrorist networks has been overblown, but I mean, I think it bears further investigation. I think it's ludicrous that the government of India thinks that it's going to expel 40,000 some odd Rohingya because they suspect a few of them may be linked with terrorist networks in Pakistan. And first of all, I mean, they're not going to be able to send them anywhere because Burma won't take them and Bangladesh won't take them. So, you know, what exactly is the India government going to be talking about here? Are they going to be, you know, putting these people in some sort of detention camp because they suspect a few of them may be connected to people that are unsavory? I think that this whole effort by the Burma government to sort of list the Rohingya as a collateral damage to an anti-terrorism campaign, frankly, covers up the fact that the government of Burma is engaged in ethnic cleansing. When you say that 400,000 people have to be expelled from an area because there were a band of terrorists or a band of insurgents, you know, and people who are, frankly, as far as we can tell, very poorly armed. You know, the people that were caught by the Burma government were caught with slingshots and swords. I mean, you know, this is a bald, blatant effort to try to use the terrorism card to cover up massive human rights violations, and it's simply unacceptable, either by the government of Burma or by the government of India.
I don't know why you bring in the government of India, because the government of India is dealing with its own issues, and I could turn around and say that countries like Turkey, which are pontificating on what India should be doing, what Bangladesh should be doing, should perhaps step up and say, we will take the refugees.
I'm not going to defend Turkey either, but the issue is that if you're talking about deporting 40,000 Rohingya refugees
among other illegal immigrants
because they say that there's a group of terrorists somehow buried within them. I mean, if that is the allegation by the government of India, India should investigate and find out exactly who the terrorists are and proceed from there. But the idea of leading with a deportation is frankly is unconscionable, and this is a collective punishment.
Tan, do you want to respond?
Fair point that, okay, if Indian governments want to repatriate these 40,000, where do they send them back? And there's nowhere they can do that. But another point is not all Rohingyas are terrorists. Of course, there's, as I said, that there may be some sort of part of them and being a group. I don't think that Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army or whatever the group is not representing the whole population of Rohingya. This is a true whereas in India and also in Burma. So I have some sort of difficulty to understand why that 40,000 Rohingyas in India may be rounded out and forced to repatriate. I don't understand that at all for the moment. So it is not that, at least it's not practical for the moment.
Right. Phil, for your benefit, let me read out parts of the affidavit. And no one's saying all the Rohingyas are terrorists. There are children there who are clearly suffering. I'm quoting here from what the government of India has said. Many of the Rohingyas figure in suspected sinister designs of the ISI and ISIS and other extremist groups who want to achieve their ulterior motives in India, including that of flaring up communal and sectarian violence in sensitive areas. Security agency inputs and other authentic material show links between some of the Rohingyas with Pakistan-based terror organizations and similar organizations, and there is a serious potential and possibility of eruption of violence by the radicalized Rohingyas. Isn't it the state's duty to ensure the safety and security of its people first and then look at other humanitarian causes?
Well, look, nobody's going to dispute the idea that if there are, in fact, terrorists amongst that group, that they should be investigated and found. I mean, if you're talking about attacks on civilians by people within the Rohingya, that's one thing. But the idea is, the whole story has led from the very beginning, from the day that the junior minister raised this whole issue, that this whole group had to be sent back. And as my other panelist has mentioned, it's not even possible to contemplate that, because Burma will not take them and Bangladesh will not take them. So what we have here is the government of India playing politics with a large group of refugees who, frankly, have done little or nothing to deserve the kind of attention, and then a sort of a longer list of suspicions that they're connected somehow to terrorists. If there is, in fact, any sort of terrorist linkage to acknowledged listed terrorist groups that the government of India is concerned about, then the government of India should investigate those specific links and come up with the specific individuals who are involved. Well, then it should stop talking about deporting the whole group. If the issue is a group of people within the Rohingya, that's one thing. If it's talking about a mass deportation or a mass, sending of Rohingya back, that's another. And
there are two things here.
The thing is, the government of India has been confusing the two issues, and unfortunately, it has created a situation where those Rohingya in India are, one, afraid, and two, have become bigger targets for others who might want to do them harm because they are Muslim or because they're vulnerable.
There are two things here. Rohingya are only one of the immigrant groups that the government of India is talking about deporting. It's talking about deporting all illegal immigrants. The Rohingya happen to be in the news, and that is why this is being talked about more. That is point number one. Point number two, repeated instances of telephonic conversation intercepted by intelligence agencies both in India and Bangladesh have shown links to Pakistan-based terror organizations and the ISI with the Rohingya Arakan army. Which country in its right mind is going to take the risk? That is one question. But having said that, let me go back to Than and also ask, this is being called a watershed moment, a defining moment in the history of Myanmar. Aung San Suu Kyi is going to speak tomorrow. There is immense pressure on her by a lot of Western governments and organizations. How do you see this playing out? You're saying that where will these refugees go? There are more who are coming to Bangladesh. At this rate, the number may swell up a lot in the weeks ahead. Where do you see this moving forward?
Aung San Suu Kyi's speech tomorrow, we have to wait and see, because it's to me that it is she prepared to deliver it in a UN General Assembly, I think. But for the internal problem or domestic issue, she canceled it, the trip, and then instead she will deliver it tomorrow. But the situation now here is she is at pain to say that she tried to treat those people, two communities, equally. But the ground situation is most of those Rohingyas, they are terrified and they are really, really afraid of their life and their situation. That's why they flee. At the moment, although the Myanmar government is now announced that they will prepare to accept them back in their original area, but in practical, I don't think it will happen immediately. And also, how would they prepare to accept those people? Because for the moment, even for number is a little bit of argument points. That UN and international organization or media say that 400,000 people over there in a short period of a moment when the situation flare up. But the question is whether these people are actually from Burma or a few of them are surrounding Bangladeshi side. We don't know, and they don't know as well. So at the moment, Aung San Suu Kyi has a problem about her inability to control her own the military in Burma. It is a big issue as well. This is the only thing I can understand, and it's very difficult, very complex.
Phil, the Human Rights Watch is asking for more sanctions, tougher measures to be imposed on Myanmar. Help me understand how that is going to help in the current situation, and also how do you see the role of China here?
Okay. The actual asks that we have been pressing, the recommendations we've been making, have been focused on the Burma military. Let's be absolutely clear about that. What we're urging the international community to do is to adopt a global arms embargo against providing any sort of arms to the Burma army, and also to send all bilateral military-to-military training and other contacts. The idea is to, of course, focus the attention of the Burma military that they are at risk of becoming, again, a pariah amongst its peers if it continues with this ethnic cleansing. Those sanctions, if adopted, would certainly also affect India's relationship with the Burma military, because, of course, Indian Army has been providing arms in the past to the Burma military as well, and we think that needs to stop. The other thing I would say is that Aung San Suu Kyi quite clearly is restricted by the 2008 Constitution in terms of what she can do in security matters. She can't order the military to do this or to do that. I mean, obviously she can speak up. She has great moral authority. She has great popularity amongst the Burmese people. But I would also add that she is the foreign minister of the government, in addition to her state councilor position. And in that position, she is in a position to allow the UN fact-finding mission that was appointed by the UN Human Rights Council last March in a resolution that was unanimously adopted by that council to come in and do what they're supposed to do, which is to investigate violations. And no one is saying that she's committing the violations. People are saying that the army is committing the violations. And if, many people sort of maintain that there's sort of two governments within Burma. There's a sort of military government that does its own thing, and then there's the civilian government. In this case, we are focusing the attention on the military because it is the military, it is Senior General Min Aung Hlaing as the commander of the Burma Army who are responsible for what has happened on the ground. Finally, I would add that we are going to be coming out with new satellite imagery tomorrow, looking at what has happened. We now have over 220 villages that have been burned. That's up from 62 that we saw before. So a significant increase in the number of confirmed burnt-out villages that have been targeted by this ethnic cleansing campaign.
Right.
Clearly, there's a lot of information. There's a lot more to come out, but there are things the government needs to answer for, and there are things that the Burma military needs to answer for, and they had better start tomorrow.
Absolutely, and for one, as to where the refugees will go, Bangladesh also now saying that all refugees must go home, and Myanmar has said that it will take back those who can verify their citizenship. So that's where things stand. We're waiting to hear what Aung San Suu Kyi has to say. Thanks very much, Phil Robertson and Than Win Thun, for joining us and discussing this very, very pressing issue that the world is looking at. What really is this crisis, though, and why is Myanmar unable or unwilling to protect its own people? Here's a quick explainer.
Myanmar's Muslim Rohingya minority numbered around 1 million before September 2017's mass exodus. More than 90% of the country's population is Buddhist. Most Rohingya live in the northwest, many in refugee camps. They're stateless as Myanmar has denied them citizenship since 1982. The Rohingya are rejected as outsiders and widely discriminated against, used as forced labour, with restricted freedom of movement and access to education and public services. They're considered one of the most persecuted minorities in the world. Since 2011 and the end of the junta's military rule, tensions have mounted between the Buddhist and Muslim communities. In 2012, clashes resulted in more than 200 deaths, most of them Muslim. In October 2016, the army launched an operation in Rakhine State following attacks against police posts carried out by the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army. Declared a terrorist organisation by the government, the militant group says it wants to protect the Rohingya from abuse by security forces and the Buddhist community. Fleeing the ongoing violence, many thousands of Rohingya have sought refuge in Malaysia, Indonesia and Bangladesh.